Hi, everyone. Hope you're having a great time at this conference. I'm Allen McGee.
And I'm Ellen Shumaker. Alan, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. We're here today to talk about food science. I'm a food scientist, uh, born and raised in Michigan. Went to Michigan State University for food science. Love science, love food. We're here to talk to you about the industry and just some insights to a field that not a lot of people have a lot of information about. I've had 10 years plus in the industry, working for various companies, all in product development, working on some great snacks and frozen products that you hopefully enjoy over with your visits in the grocery store.
Yeah, and I'm the director of extension and outreach for Safe Plate, which is a food safety research and extension program at North Carolina State University in Raleigh, North Carolina, which is also where I went to graduate school for food science. So Alan and I are both food scientists, but based on what we've said already, you can tell that our day-to-day jobs are really different. And so, Alan, can you just get us started and tell everyone a little bit about what food science is?
Sure. Food science is it's a huge science. It's a lot of things that you take biology, culinary arts, engineering, chemistry, biochemistry, and you combine that into a field that is basically looking to solve problems around food or develop new foods to keep the world fed.
Yeah, and so there are of course, a lot of different careers that, are a part of food science. And so Alan and I are really representing kind of two of the three kind of big buckets that I think about when I think about food science jobs and opportunities. And we'll share a lot of stories about our experiences. But when I think about options within going into careers in food science, I think about industry, which Alan represents, which can include research and development, product development, a lot of sensory studies, chemistry and engineering. So, I'm sure Alan has some good examples to share with you all. There's academia, which is the group that I tend to represent, which is both research and extension activities. So extension is providing support to people of a state as part of the land grant university mission. And then there's the regulatory side, which is made up of folks in FDA, USDA, and everyone who at local and state health departments who are working to make sure that companies and everyone following regulations. So, Alan, how did you decide to go into this field? Can you tell us
Um,
your story?
yeah, so I grew up. My mom loved cooking, and when I was young, my earliest memories of her and me following her around in the kitchen and just learning how to cook simple things. I remember my first thing I ever cooked was sauteed mushrooms. So I always had this love and fascination with food. And I also found out, through high school and things that I love science. So I always said I wanted to be a chef when I was younger. Then I started falling in love with science. And my first year at Michigan State, I wasn't a food science major. I didn't know anything about that food science was actually something real. I started in chemical engineering because I told the advisor, like, I want to work in the food industry. She said, well, you could be a chemical engineer. So I did that for a year, and then I found out that you can actually just major out in food science. And there's all these different fields, like you were explaining before, that you can get into sensory chemistry, the more analytical side, the product development side. And I took one course, like an introductory to food science course. And I remember the first lecture, they talked about a cake and all the science that went behind making, mixing, and baking the cake. And right after that lecture, I marched down to the administration office and changed my major because I just fell in love with it. It was something that, like, this is what I really wanted to do. So it takes the both sides, the artistic, culinary side, and then also this science background, and just combines the two. And I just loved it, and felt like when I was in school, I wasn't really studying; I was just discovering, which is something I just really enjoy to do.
Yeah, that's cool. So how did you end up choosing this particular path? You said that you knew that you wanted to go and work for a food company, but can you tell us a little bit more about how you ended up in your current job and what your job looks like?
Yeah, so I ended up I had an internship working for a major food company, and I started in frozen foods, and I was really nervous about it. I'm like, I don't know if I'm gonna do well. You learn all this stuff in school, like, is it applicable? But then I just kind of made it through, like doing formulations and working along other senior scientists. And you learn in the industry there's a ton of people. Like it's not just you that execute the project. You work with sensory scientists, engineers. You work with people from academia if it's something really front end. Um, you work with also the production facilities, the people who work in the plants and handle the plant trials and startups and things like that. So you get buddied with someone who has a lot of experience, and you get a project, and you get going on it. And over time, you start learning things. You learn how to make a cracker. You learn how to make a cookie. You learn all these technical things that really helps you kind of mold your career and kind of survive in the food industry. But also, you also have to have uh, a key insight on what consumers want. So you people out there that's watching this, whether your age, like I'm always interested in what you guys are eating, or what you guys are doing, or what are you uploading to Instagram, because my job is to make that into a product that you can buy on the shelf. So it's a really cool way, and something I just enjoy doing. So how about you, Ellen? How did you get into your field?
Yeah, so our stories actually sound a little bit similar. It's kind of funny just listening to your background. So, um, I grew up, always enjoyed baking with my mom and kind of trying out different things at home, but always really loved science and wasn't aware of food science as a career. But because I loved science, I decided to go into something pretty general. I majored in biology in college. Took a variety of classes, but where I really discovered food science within that was a microbiology class. And we spent a short time talking about outbreak investigations and all of the steps that are involved in the event of a foodborne illness. And so it involves state and local health officials going out and interviewing people about what they ate, doing traceback investigations. And it was just like, well, this is really cool. This is like, detective work, trying to figure out like what caused something, and knowing that there's so much science behind it. And so I started to look into options within what a career like that could look like. And I came across food science. And so decided to pursue that in graduate school. And because I was really interested in the microbiology side of it, I started an assistantship with a professor who did a lot of work in consumer behavior and risk communication and food safety messaging. And so that really proved to be a really great fit for me, because it's this really fun overlap between science and then also communication. So I am not really a lab person, but I really enjoy the science of it and finding ways to share stories with people and share information. And so that's really what brought me into it. I started out as getting a master's and then really loved the research. It was, it's kind of messy, but it's really fun. And so I decided to stay on for my PhD. I spent a little bit of time out at Kansas State University and was doing some research specific to child nutrition programs and food safety there. Then I decided I wanted to come back to North Carolina, and so I spent several years at RTI International, which is a nonprofit research institute, and so I was doing a variety of food and food safety related projects there. And then about a year ago, I came back to this position at NC State. And so I am currently leading the outreach and extension for this program. So it's been, kind of all over the place, but it's been a lot of fun in terms of finding that niche.
Yeah, awesome.
So, we've both kind of talked about higher level what our positions look like, but can you tell us a little bit about what a day in the life looks for you, like what a typical day is?
Yeah, the one thing I really love about the industry is that your day can look so different depending on where you're at in the project. So some days I come in the office and there's meetings. As I say, you work on a team with a bunch of people, so you may be updating a marketing partner about the product, or working with supply chain to give them updates on timelines, or you're having meetings with your manager or leadership teams, and you're showing food. or some days you go to the office and you're doing lab benchtop development. You're trying to improve a flavor or trying to make something better. Another day you may be at a supplier working with the flavor chemist, trying to find what's the best blueberry or strawberry flavor that matches with your product that you're working on. And then on some days you may be across the country or in a whole different state, flying around, doing a plant test or start production, which is kind of in the middle to end part of your job. So you're in the field as a product development scientist. You start from ideation all the way through. There may be days where you're at a focus group talking to consumers. So it can look a lot of different ways, which is something I really enjoy about the job. That is never a dull or boring moment. It's always something new, always something that you can discover, someone to talk to, or you're getting your hands dirty making products, which I love to do. How about you?
Yeah, so I mean, it's a little bit similar. So my each day is a little bit different, and so I guess I'm like you in that I really like variety. So I know I've been kind of throwing around the term extension, and so for those of you who aren't familiar with it, extension is part of the land grant university mission. So part of my work at NC State and part of NC State's role in the state of North Carolina is to provide outreach and support to the public in a variety of agricultural science topics. And so with mine being food safety, I provide a variety of support to the public, both providing home food preservation topics and training for consumers. We support extension agents throughout the state who can also develop curriculum and provide information to their folks in their counties. And then it's also helping support the retail industry in food. And so because of that, because of my extension role, I am involved in a lot of different the extension component of research projects. And so a lot of my days may have meetings where I'm meeting with folks about research projects, coming up with ideas and objectives for projects, writing proposals to pitch different research ideas to try to pull in funding, having meetings about the research that we're seeing. Maybe something isn't going the way we expected and trying to find ways to adapt and move forward. Some days I'll be working independently. So that could be curriculum development for some of the trainings that I am involved in teaching, manuscript development. And then sometimes I'll also be traveling. So I go to conferences, both to support extension folks in the state and then also to continue my own personal professional development. Sometimes I'll be invited to give a talk on a topic related to food safety research. So it can really be a lot of different things, which is fun.
Awesome. Yeah, I know with your career, just like any other one, there's a lot of challenges. What's some of the challenges that you face?
Yeah. So, I mean, I know I've spent the first half of this talking about how much I love the intersection between science and communication. But at the same time, that can be really hard just because people are challenging sometimes knowing the best way to communicate with them. Everyone comes to the table with different experiences and different cultures and different backgrounds and, of course, different knowledge. And so finding ways to make consistent messaging about food safety and really trying to inform people of the risks of different types of products and how to reduce their risk without telling them what to do. It can be challenging. And also, especially as the world is changing so much with social media. So we've started using TikTok recently as a platform for sharing our food safety messaging, and so that has been challenging because it's different from many of the other social media platforms that we've worked in before. And also just research in this area is really interesting, but it can also be challenging as well, just because people tend to be bad at reporting accurately what they do. You know, I know we're all guilty of, exaggerating, eating healthy or different behaviors that we consider something that we want to do. So in some ways, it's kind of similar if people might report their hand washing behaviors differently than what's actually happening. So what challenges do you see in your day to day?
I would say normal challenges are trying to meet the timelines. The timelines are aggressive. Food in industry, it's a competition. You're going against other businesses, so you want to get the best product out there as quick as possible to gain share, gain market growth, and also bring some joy and excitement to people's lives. So the timelines can be aggressive. There's also some decisions that you have to make. As a scientist, you always want to take your time and you want to run through all the experiments and get as close as detail, the best data as you can as possible. But sometimes with the timelines, that's not possible. So you have to figure out other ways to get the information you need to get the product or the project moving forward. Another challenge is always pricing and costing. It's things they don't really teach you in college about creating formulas and those things. You have to make sure you meet costs. So you can create the best thing. It tastes awesome. It tastes great. But if the company can't make money on it, then that's something that you need to work on. So you need to make it the best tasting product that meets costs as fast as possible. So it's always a spinning wheel. And as a developer, I always say like you're the gatekeeper to the consumer. So it's your job to make that the best products possible because you really touch it and you feel it every day. So those are some of the challenges, but still fun because it's like a Rubik's Cube. You have to kind of figure it out and tweak things until you make it better and better to a point where everyone feels comfortable and feels great about it. So before a product launches, we put it in front of consumers and put it in front of people like yourselves, people that's out there watching, to get scores, whether it's overall liking or if there's a particular attribute about the food, saltiness or crunchiness. So we try to get all those attributes and data to build some success criteria to say that this is going to be a great product to launch for the company to invest in. So those are the challenges. You're trying to satisfy the business, trying to satisfy yourself, of course, to put the best product out there, but also trying to satisfy the consumer. So that's what I would say are the most challenging part of the job.
Yeah. But you are hinting at, it sounds like, I can tell just by the way you're talking about it that you really enjoy it. So like, are there anything specific coming down the line that you're really excited about?
Yeah, I would say there's always pushes and waves and things through the food industry as you know, and some of you see out there. You're talking about food safety. There's also huge pushes to make things more sustainable, to reduce food waste, to make sure you are utilizing and being as clean as possible on the environment. There's new information out there on nutrition. The old way of nutrition is that everybody's the same and we process things, but similar. But nutrition science is really taking a leap. So you're also taking that into account as you are building products. So you want to make them as green as possible, and also everyone knows like clean label things. So all those things are really cool, and they push the science to do things differently, to think differently. Create new ingredients, things that people really want to see in their products to make them as whole and as healthy as possible. So those are things that get me excited. It's a new challenge, a new way of thinking. And then also just since COVID, a lot of people are cooking at home. So a lot of people have rediscovered their passion for food and cooking, and everybody's taking pictures and, being foodies. And that's really great that people are into food, because that fuels a fire that, hey, we see something, trending on TikTok, people are doing this. They're like, hey, maybe we need to develop a product for that. As you mentioned earlier, using TikTok and other social media platforms as a way to get information out there is also a good way to take some information and look at trends and build something new from it and follow the consumer. So yeah, those are things like I'm just super excited about. How about you?
Yeah, I mean, it's really interesting hearing you talk about TikTok, because I had not thought about that use of it from following trends and seeing what people are doing. But that's really cool. And I mean, I'll just echo that. I mean, I think TikTok is, it has its challenges, like I said, but we're really excited to keep moving forward because, one element to it as a messaging tool when we compare it to other social media platforms is that it has such a broader reach than other social media platforms. So that has been really a great way to get messaging out. And then it is also a really great way to just see what people are doing. Like you said, people are exploring different ways of cooking, I think, because of COVID. And so it's been really interesting to see what people come up with. And then for us thinking about ways we can develop messaging around those behaviors and learn more about them. I also agree about the food waste and the sustainability. So I've done a bit of research related to food waste and really trying to find that balance between reducing food waste and, maximizing food safety, because in some cases people think that a date label may or may not have anything to do with food safety. It's more the quality of a product. And so that's where sometimes food can get wasted at the home if people think that their food is no longer safe just because it might be out of date. And so finding ways to really encourage people to keep food when it's still at a good quality, but really trying to find ways to extend shelf life once it's at a person's home could be a really great thing to really increase sustainability.
I have to ask this question before we end it. What's your favorite food? What's your most favorite food? What's your favorite thing to cook? What is your go-to meals?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I feel like it's kind of all over the place. I mean, so one dish that I really enjoy making at this time of year is kind of a vegetable curry dish, I'll call it, for lack of a better term. So my husband and I will cut up a bunch of different vegetables, and then we usually have a store-bought curry sauce that we mix. But my kind of secret ingredient this time of year is that my dad is a big gardener, and he grows this kabuka squash. It's this really earthy, nutty kind of flavor of a squash, and we add it to the sauce, and it is really delicious. And then, of course, we have naan with it, and it is very, very good.
Awesome.
What about you? What's your favorite?
My wife and I moved to Texas not too long ago, so we've been exploring the barbecue here, of course. So that's
So
been
good.
something. Yeah, that's been something fun here. So we tried some brisket from some places. Of course, you come to Texas, you got to get the beef. Um, I love that. I love to try foods from different cultures. This Ethiopian food is really good. And just trying anything really to kind of expand my palate and understand uh, what people are eating. So my problem is I like everything. I wish I did it. So my eating habits have to match my habits in the gym, unfortunately. Uh, those are it's a few things that I really like. I really love, especially this time of year, like sharing meals with people, and that's something about the food industry too. Like food is central. It's something everybody experiences. It brings people together. So anything or any meal that just brings people together and have a good time, to talk and just enjoy everyone's presence and art is a great thing to me. So
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, and with that, we just want to thank you all for coming to our session. It's been great to be here with you all today. I hope you learned a little bit about food science.
yeah, thank you all. Hope you have a good time.